Hello, 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 and welcome back to Key the Lights here on Princeton Community Television. I'm Misha.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Rachel.
And here with us today we have Elena Azcuaga-Suayfeta, who is a 5th grade student attending Newtown Elementary, who writes beautiful poetry. To start us off, can you read us your beautiful poem?
Sure. Okay. America has changed. We were once an eagle. We flew above the purple mountain majesties and the amber waves of grain. We were all proud of what we were, a beautiful creature born from the ashes of war, hoping to find our new beginning. We grew through the dark and the night, with our minds set on flying over our past and into the future. We grew together and apart. We grew far and wide, with our white feather head held high. We grew so confident in the power contained inside of us, we went too far. And we fell. We broke our wings. Unable to fly above our worries and doubts, we came to a decision. Now or later. We chose later. Later, we said, when the poor were being neglected. Later, we said, when we were taking land from those who lived there first. Later, we said, when people were being killed for doing right, not wrong. Later, we said, when our world began to fall apart. Later, we said, after grieving the deaths of children in classrooms, when will now come? The now that we have been promising ourselves for decades will not just walk up to us on its own. We must make now. Now we will change the laws to protect our people. Now we will welcome those who seek safety in our arms. Now we will give women the equal status they deserve. It must be now to make our eagle fly again. We changed for the worse, but we can change again for the better of our country and people. So stop saying later. Later will always be an excuse. Say now to our hopes and dreams for peace. Fly high, America. Fly high like you once did.
Well, that was beautiful.
Oh my God.
So what inspired you to write this poem?
Well, I guess since 4th grade, and I really started to get involved into politics and everything going on in the world. And I began to go insane. All the hate that happens, all the wars, it made me go nuts, and I couldn't take it. So one day, I was about to go to what's it called? A discussion for a mock trial for not a mock trial, but for the United Nations, and my mom was reading me something about just clean water and everything in different countries, and suddenly something popped in my head and I couldn't concentrate on what she was saying, so I ran to the bathroom and I locked the door and I sat there for 20 to 30 minutes and just jotted down everything that had been filling my mind for the past 2 years, and this just came out.
Wow, that's great. Oh, yeah.
That's a great story. Just a brainstorm of thoughts, and it came out so beautifully, and the metaphor, the eagle, really amazing work.
Have you always loved writing poems?
Yeah, I don't know, writing just comes to me, and at random moments too. I can be sitting in class and then suddenly I'm like, wait, I need a piece of paper, and I just run to the other side of the room and jot stuff down, and eventually I come out with a poem.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Is this something you want to pursue in the future? Would you like to be a writer?
Yeah, writing is really one of my passions, especially because there's no real guideline to it. You can write about anything you want and any kind of genre, and poetry is just one of the things that I like most.
So, how did it come about that you read the speech in front of the United Nations?
Well, the United Nations is about making peace and avoiding war between nations, and this is kind of what the poem is about. It's mainly focused on America, but it also has to do with other countries. When I say, now we will help those who seek safety in our arms, we will help those fleeing war and who just seek a better tomorrow. So that kind of thing, just helping people and who need help.
That's fabulous. So, do you also think that you might want to go into social activism?
Yes, I would like that, because my mom is a very outspoken woman, so I thank her for a lot of the things that I'm doing now, and it's really important, especially at my age, and because I appreciate what you're doing here. We're all young, and a lot of people don't listen to us because they think we're dumber because we're younger and we don't really understand these things, but that's not true. It's if the generation before us, like the older generation, messes something up, like the climate, if it gets way worse than it is now, it's our job to fix it. And we have to know all these things and help create what will be our better tomorrow.
While writing these poems, was there anything that stood out to you?
Yes, I think it was mainly, I think, discrimination about people who are different, and it happens a lot. It's been happening for thousands and thousands of years, and we're just only like halfway there with it, so we still have a lot of work to do.
So since you're obviously very passionate about all these issues, which is there a certain one that you are most passionate about?
I think that is just accepting people who are different from you. That's just the one in general that I focus on.
Speaking of which, since June is Pride Month, Rachel and I dressed the occasion to show our support as allies to the community, just to weave it in. And discrimination, it's happened forever, and xenophobia, afraid of the other, against people of a different sexual orientation, different gender, different
Ethnicity.
background, religion.
Yes.
And, it's people like you that are going to take a stand and make the difference.
Yes, that's what I plan to do.
So when do you start, writing poetry or writing at all?
I think second grade is when we mainly started getting into, I think, just like small stories and a little bit of poetry. But then as I got into third grade, I kind of enhanced it more, and I kind of really got to get the feel of it, and that's when I kind of just fell in love with it.
Is this your favorite poem, or was there one poem that you wrote that you absolutely loved?
Well, I feel like this is the strongest one I've written. I think in maybe second grade when we were in Mexico, because we go there every summer. I just jotted down something, and my mom was like, "Oh, that's really beautiful," and it was like a poem and everything. I'm like, "Oh, cool! I would love to turn it into a song." So with help from my aunt, I turned it into a song, and we did get it copyrighted.
Wow.
But this is my favorite so far.
Do you plan to use your poetry as a sort of platform for all the issues that you want to speak out about?
Yeah, I would love it to be just a symbol of hope, and that although there's a bunch of horrid things happening, we can try our best to accept everyone and fix them.
What have your teachers and classmates said about your activism and your beautiful poetry?
Well, one of the rallies where I read this poem, my friend did it along with me, and she liked it, and then I gave it to some of my teachers, and they liked it a lot, so I'm very glad that they did.
May I ask when this poem was written?
Yes, maybe 2 months ago, maybe a little bit less. Feels like very little, but...
Are there ever any times where, maybe in the middle of the night, or you're just doing something out of nowhere, you could just get this idea, an idea for a metaphor, and you just have to scribble it down, that time you were mentioning it? Does that happen a lot?
Yes, actually, it's a real issue, actually, because my parents finally, tossed me into bed. I'm lying there, I'm about to fall asleep, and then something just pops into my mind. I get a light bulb, and I quickly get out a notebook and jot it down. And my parents are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm jotting down ideas."
So you mentioned that you go to Mexico every summer and that your mother has a lot of strong opinions. How has that background influenced you?
Well, being a Latina and being bilingual and knowing another culture and other traditions, I feel like it keeps me open too, because I went to an international school actually from 2nd to 4th grade, and there were kids from so many countries, and I don't know, I felt so passionate about everyone, and I felt like it was just such a nice environment with people from all over the world and people who were also bilingual, not just spoke one language, and we all kind of understood each other in that way.
So while writing these poems, was there a challenge that came through?
Yes, actually, other people's opinions is always something that, even though you might not want to be influenced by that, sometimes it just does. I was careful with what I wrote because I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with what I say if I openly. So I use a lot of metaphors. So people will agree with what I say, even though it's not exactly what I want to say. It helps, like, tone down the seriousness, but still keep it at a nice, serious, sweet level where it's passionate, but it's not like extremely like a presidential speech or something like that.
Do you have a favorite line in that poem?
Yes. I think it's just the very end line where fly high, America, fly high like you once did, because we start, like, slavery was one of the very bad things our country went through, and we kind of fixed it, because we stopped slavery, but then we still were equal to those with a different color of our skin, and then that led to the civil rights movement, and then we corrected that, but there's still segregation in our country, and so I think step by step we're correcting our mistakes, and so we're eventually gonna fly high and completely try to make our world peaceful and just completely diverse and avoid, just separating people for who they are.
Out of curiosity, for your writing, how much do you revise your work? Like when you write it for the first time, do you just write it out and it tends to be like really good? Do you like to leave your writing as it like naturally came, or do you revise it a lot?
I don't revise it a lot, but I do kind of change a few words here and there. Like, I think I wrote one recently or something. Again, at night. Actually, no, I wrote one in school because of, people calling people dorks and nerds and people calling each other popular and weirdos and outcasts and lunch. That all kind of tied together. So I wrote a poem about that. And, I said, I need to change this word and that word and, kind of just tweak things a little bit. But I don't like to completely change my work because I like to have some of the original lines in there.
Has there been an experience that you've seen that you weren't able to write down what you saw, or that you thought was important to put in a poem?
I think so, yes. So, my mom actually took me to a rally for, peace and women standing up for what they believe. And that really did kind of tie to what I wrote about this. So I wrote, now we will give women the equal status they deserve. So that kind of, a lot of the things that I've experienced and heard and seen and learned in school too helped me just, every line in this poem is kind of something that I learned on my own or in school or along with someone.
What is something that you think this or the next generation, like, what skill do you think they should, like, learn to help resolve these issues that are plaguing us?
I think they should learn to, accept things for what they are, like, not try to avoid things. Like, they're saying, like, climate change isn't real, or, no, we accept everybody for who they are, but that's not true. There are still some people out there who don't believe that everybody's equal, but people have to learn that's happening now so they can correct it.
Going back to what you previously said about things that you learn like on your own or in school, your writing is like very sophisticated and advanced. Like, how you said like now or later, and then you had the lines that said like later, and then it went back to now. Just some very like beautiful techniques of like emphasizing certain topics. So was this something that you learned in school or something that you kind of explored by yourself?
I think poetry I did learn in school, but it was mostly rhyming. So this kind of like free form of poetry kind of just comes out at certain times. And I will give all of my teachers credit because they all teach me something about writing that I should add. And kind of like where I repeat things like later in the nows. I do have one other poem that I wrote, and it's dark and light, and it's kind of that same thing. So that I did do on my own, but most of it was my teachers, evolving along the grades.
You mentioned that you use symbolism and metaphors as a way of kind of sidestepping around some of the more controversial statements that you would have liked to make. What are some other ways that you cope with a difference of opinion?
Well, there are some poems that, people that share my opinions. I do share everything with them because that's my opinion. And even people who don't agree with me exactly, I still share what I believe because, we have to learn to accept what people think and their religious beliefs, their political beliefs, all of that. So,
Do you have any inspiration while writing these poems?
I think it's mostly my parents because when they immigrated here, they always taught me to accept people and love everybody and not to hate just because of differences. So they really do inspire me to write all of these poems.
To be bicultural, have you ever seen or maybe experienced some sort of form of discrimination or ignorance or anything?
Not exactly, but it does bother me that people all the time really, like they don't exactly make racist remarks, but they make like stereotypical remarks, and because they don't know that I am from a specific country or place, and it's not even people I know, it's just random people that say it, and I'm just like, that's where I'm from, right? And like, oh, sorry, no, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't really say that anyway, because even if there isn't someone that could be offended by that, you should, like do the empty chair test. You get an empty chair when you talk to your friend and say, would I say that if that person was sitting in that chair?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard that before. So do you have some advice about, maybe to our viewers, about opening yourself up to listening to opinions that you may not share?
Yes, I say share your opinion and let them share their opinion, and just accept it, because sometimes you won't be able to change someone's mind, but just being there and learning to be with people who disagree and agree with you is kind of just a lesson that you'll learn along the way.
Are there any other, ways that, besides the empty chair test that you use for one to monitor what you say?
I always plan. It sounds a little strange, but I always kind of plan at the back of my head what I may or may not say, and I know not everybody does this, but it just helps me kind of isolate the things that I do not want to say because that's rude or that would hurt someone's feelings, and keep the things that would be okay to say, in another space, and say some of those things because you have to be nice. So
do you want to continue this in the future?
yes, I definitely want to keep writing poems and keep staying open to others' opinions and always accept people for who they are.
What would you say to any younger viewers about, putting your ideas out there? Because sometimes, our generation can sit back and watch it happen.
Yes, state your opinions and no pressure, but you're our future. So always stay open to new ideas and always be yourself because that's what counts the most.
What have you learned the most from this entire process of discovering yourself through writing?
Learned or what exactly? Just
in all
overall
aspects, yeah.
Okay. I've just learned that it's important to put yourself on that page and write what you believe and consider other people's feelings and always be open to something new.
In your writing, have any other poets or activists Sojourner Truth? She wasn't a poet, but she's a really good speaker. Have they inspired you in your poetry?
I think my aunt is a songwriter, and she inspires me a lot, and so does just historical figures like Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi, and again, my mom and my dad. And that I agree with what they say, and I think that should be spoken, and they might not be here to say what they want to say, so I kind of agree with their thing, kind of put it along with mine, and make a kind of like a brand new aspect of things.
Your writing voice is very sophisticated and mature. Is anybody ever surprised that you yourself wrote that?
Yes, especially because usually people think I'm older than I am. So people are like, oh, that's amazing. How old are you? I'm like, I'm in 5th grade. I'm 12, and they're like, wow, that's and it's, I don't know. I've read a lot of my classmates' writing, and it seems to me that theirs is very good too. And I would like them to get attention for it as well. So I mean, I think mine's good, but theirs is also very good, and some of it's way better.
Do you have a favorite poet yourself?
I like Maya Angelou. She's a very outspoken woman.
Why do you love her?
Just the way she talks. She's like that kind of sassy, I am me, and I have the right to be respected because, and she had like a kind of a tough time when she was young too, and she became a very strong writer. So I guess just everything that she went through and everything that she taught through her writing made me very, very fond of her.
Has there ever been a time where you've had to confront somebody who's saying prejudiced statements or saying discriminatory ideas?
Yes, actually, there was a boy in my class a few years ago who, I mean, the kids always act like it's just kidding, but, it's really not just a joke. And, when boys are young and sometimes they don't always know what they're saying, specifically boys, and they're always like, oh, the girls are fighting, girl fight. I'm like, no, it's not, no. We can fight it out if we want, but we're not going to do that because we're civilized and we're not going to punch each other. We're going to talk and get through it. We don't need you telling us that we fight like little kittens. We don't need you telling us that. So it's kind of something that we always have to clear out, like, hey, can you not, be so, gender specific? That's just kind of something I always have to remind people.
That's wonderful that you always speak out and you're respectful of other people's opinions. I think that's absolutely amazing. So do you have any advice for people that are around our age group or even older about getting their ideas out there?
Yes, just sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and, let all your words flow out, and eventually you can shape them into something new like this.
Is there any special place you want to have your poems read, in Washington Monument, presidential nomination, any of that?
I would love to have my poem read in the actual United Nations capital in New York, one of them in New York, because a lot of important stuff goes down in there. And again, my poem fits in with their goal of creating worldwide peace.
Do you have any last words or advice for our viewers, just an overall?
Yes. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and let your voice be heard, even if it is not the loudest. You can get there. You just have to try hard.
That's beautiful. You are absolutely amazing. You write poems. You are outspoken and confident, and you write songs apparently too. It's I'm absolutely wowed. I'm sure you guys agree.
This is great. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
very inspirational.
very mature for your age, like you said.
Thank you.
I would have never guessed 5th grade. I'm whoa. Inspirational. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Blessing us with your beautiful words and just your opinions. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. America has changed. We were once an eagle. We flew above the purple mountain majesties and the amber waves of grain. We were all proud of what we were, a beautiful creature born from the ashes of war, hoping to find our new beginning. We grew through the dark and the night, with our minds set on flying over our past and into the future. We grew together and apart. We grew far and wide, with our white feather head held high. We grew so confident in the power contained inside of us, we went too far, and we fell. We broke our wings. Unable to fly above our worries and doubts, we came to a decision. Now or later? We chose later. Later, we said, when the poor were being neglected. Later, we said, when we were taking land from those who lived there first. Later, we said, when people were being killed for doing right, not wrong. Later, we said, when our world began to fall apart. Later, we said, after grieving the deaths of children in classrooms. When will now come? The now that we have been promising ourselves for decades will not just walk up to us on its own. We must make now. Now we will change the laws to protect our people. Now we will welcome those who seek safety in our arms. Now we will give women the equal status they deserve. It must be now to make our eagle fly again. We changed for the worse, but we can change again for the better of our country and people. So stop saying later. Later will always be an excuse. Say now to our hopes and dreams for peace. Fly high, America. Fly high like you once did.